I used to go hiking alone all the time, and it never scared me because being alone in the forest felt peaceful, almost comforting, like the world slowed down and nothing could reach me there, which is why I didn't hesitate when I planned that solo trip without telling anyone where I was going. The trail was in northern Oregon, quiet and mostly forgotten, with no cell signal, no other cars in the parking lot, and a warning sign that looked old and sun-faded. But I ignored it because I told myself I had done this many times before without anything ever going wrong. As I walked deeper into the trees, the air grew colder and heavier, and the forest felt unusually still, with no birds, no insects, and no wind. Just the steady sound of my boots pressing into the dirt and my own breathing echoing inside my head. About an hour into the hike, I slowed down to take a break. And that's when I noticed something that immediately made my stomach tighten, because even after I stopped walking completely, I could still hear footsteps behind me moving at the same rhythm I had been using. I turned around quickly, expecting to see another hiker, or maybe someone who had caught up to me. But there was nothing there at all. No movement between the trees, no sound, and no feeling of anyone nearby, until I started walking again and the footsteps returned instantly. I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination, maybe an echo or my boots making strange sounds, but the timing was too perfect, because every time I slowed down, the footsteps slowed too, and every time I stopped, they stopped exactly with me. Then I heard breathing behind me, slow and steady, not loud enough to locate, but close enough to make my chest feel tight, and that was the moment I realized whatever was following me didn't want to be seen. It just wanted me to know it was there. The second story was told to me by my cousin, and even now he only talks about it when he's drunk, because every time he remembers it sober. He says it makes his hands shake and his stomach hurt, like his body knows something his mind wants to forget. He went on a solo camping trip deep into the forest, far from marked campsites, and by the time the sun went down, he said the silence felt wrong. Not peaceful, but heavy, like the woods were pressing in on his tent and listening to every sound he made. Around midnight, he woke up suddenly without knowing why, his heart racing before he even heard anything, and moments later he noticed slow footsteps moving carefully around his tent, stopping for long pauses, then starting again like whoever it was didn't want to be noticed. At first, he thought it had to be an animal, maybe a deer or a curious bear, until the footsteps stopped directly in front of the tent and something gently brushed against the zipper, not pulling it open, just touching it like a test. He said that was the worst part, because whatever was outside didn't rush or panic. It moved slowly and confidently, like it already knew he was awake inside, watching and listening, and had all the time in the world to decide what to do next. He stayed completely frozen for over an hour, barely breathing, listening as the footsteps moved away, then came back again, circling the tent over and over, never entering, never leaving, as if it was waiting for him to make the first move. When morning finally came, he stepped outside and found bare human footprints around his tent, clear and deep in the dirt, with no shoes, no tracks leading toward the forest, and none leading away, like whoever had been there simply vanished. The last story is the reason I will never camp alone again, because it happened to me and a close friend during a 2-day hiking trip that started normal and exciting, but ended with us leaving in silence and never talking about it for years afterward. We were setting up camp just before dark when we heard what sounded like a woman screaming for help far away in the forest, her voice echoing unnaturally between the trees, and my friend immediately wanted to follow the sound to see if someone was hurt. Something felt wrong to me, because no matter how long we listened, the screaming never got closer or farther away. It stayed the same distance, repeating with the same tone and the same emotion, like it was being played on a loop. As we stood there arguing, the same scream suddenly came from behind us, identical in every way, same voice, same pitch, same timing, and that was when my blood went cold, because no human could be in two places like that. We realized then that it wasn't someone asking for help, because whatever it was had no urgency, no fear, and no need to move. It was simply waiting to see if one of us would follow the sound into the darkness alone. We packed up our gear without speaking, left behind what we couldn't carry, and as soon as we stepped back onto the trail and started walking away, the screaming stopped completely, and the forest returned to being silent, like nothing had ever happened.